Welcome to episode 7 of Project Versus. A quick recap of what happened in the last episode. I played a grade 4 tournament on a gritty, high bouncing hard court. Unfortunately, I didn't do too well and I lost my quarter-final match. Although I did win the consolation match after that. So, all in all, I took home £25 from the tournament to add to my budget already, which makes a brand new budget of £37.93, a little bit of an improvement. We also looked at a few solutions, the first being to completely avoid these high bouncing courts for the time being while I get my confidence on them and I figure out a few strategies that are a bit more effective than my current playstyle. And the second solution we looked at was a string called MSV Focus Hex Soft. It's the 1.20 version that was highlighted because of its lower deflection and less string movement. Usually means higher trajectory, height and directional control, which is kind of what I'm looking for on these higher bouncing courts, as that is what I was struggling with in my quarterfinal match. So let's get into episode 7. Okay, so on to the third solution that I didn't get to touch on in the previous episode, and that was using the Head Prestige Mid that we have currently, but with the Yonex Polytour Rev that I've recently strung it with. And we have taken it onto court already in the forehand cross-court drills, and I was very impressed with it in all aspects of control, really, the height, the direction, and the length. And so I do want to give that another go in some of the drills we've got coming up in this episode. The one concern with that was the serving, the slice serve in particular, but we'll take it onto court, and if I'm happy with it again, then I will strongly consider switching to it. So let's get on to some drills. And the first drill we're going to practice is the cross-court backhand, as in my previous practice match, I noticed I could go forehand cross-court a lot easier, and suddenly my backhand cross-court felt a lot less natural to me. I'm not sure why that happened. Maybe I just haven't been drilling it at all in the past. So we're going to try and fix that issue. We'll do a couple drills, and we're also going to use the Head Prestige Mid in this one as well, because I want to see how it stacks up to my main setup, which is the Power Bridge 10, and then we'll make a decision from there which one was more effective. Okay, so into the drill. The blue basket in the corner of the screen is the target, and yeah, I'm going to do my usual, try and take this ball early in preparation for a practice match and a future tournament coming up pretty soon. And you can see my timing on the backhand cross court is not great. I think I've missed 2 already, and yeah, some of these efforts, they're not close to the target. They're like 2-3 meters away, hence why I'm doing this drill. And I'm really not sure why this happened. Probably because, oh, I hit it there, but probably because I just haven't been using it either in practice or in matches. I've been going down the line more often than cross court, or even going central to try and cut off the angle for my opponents. But yeah, whenever I thought about going cross court, it just didn't feel like the right shot, even if, you know, percentage wise it was. And look at that for timing. Somehow it went in. But yeah, not great. Taking it on the rise as well. I guess I'm still struggling a little bit on this side still. But either way, we do switch up the feed position. So from a slightly wider angle to see how I get on with this new proposition. And again, still a little bit struggle there, especially when I'm taking it on the rise and the ball is deep. It could be just a footwork issue as well. I did look a little bit slow to that ball, and I eventually had to reach for it. And can't just continue relying on hand-eye coordination. The footwork has got to make that shot easier for me. So yeah, this is the setup with no dampener, the PowerBridge 10. It's my main setup. It's the one I've been using pretty much since we've started this series, and I do enjoy it with no dampener. Of course, I sacrifice a little bit of height and directional control, but oh, those look quite nice. But the increase in length control, and it does help me on my slice serve as well. It's worth it in my opinion for my playstyle. So that was a pretty decent way to end that particular drill. We're going to move on to the setup. Which one is it? The Head Prestige Mid with the Yonex Polytour Rev, and I want to compare it with our main setup at the moment. We'll see how it gets on, and I am flip-flopping between using this as my main setup or continuing with the PowerBridge 10, but let's have a look. Right, so I've switched out the basket as a target for the cones instead, as I think it's a little bit more dramatic if you're able to hit them. It just looks a bit better. So yeah, let's hope we can hit it, and not a great start really. There's a lack of length control here, but you know, even though from the start the feel off of the racket, the increase in the directional and height control is there, and just feels a lot more precise in that regard. Obviously it's a little bit more powerful, and so length control can be a little bit more difficult than my current setup, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I enjoy this setup. And you know, again, it's in my head, do I switch to this one or not? And yeah, it's not too bad. Maybe my technique as well is starting to get used to taking the ball on the rise, and that's probably contributing to it. And oh, I actually clipped the cones on that one, so not too bad so far. But yeah, maybe it's a combination of the setup and my technique improving at the same time, but this one does feel really good. I think at some point it does deserve a real test in a practice match. I'm not going to take it into a tournament anytime soon yet, because I feel like I need to test it under conditions that are less favourable to what my play style is, which is trying to take the ball early. So indoors when it's hotter, or outdoors when it's sunny and warmer. These would be the type of conditions that are more difficult to execute my strategy, and so in fact they would be ideal to see whether this setup is good enough to take out into a tournament situation. And comparing both setups, it did look as if the shots coming off of the Prestige Mid penetrated the court more effectively than the PowerBridge 10. That's probably because the actual shot speed on average coming off of that setup was a bit higher. But I've only done the cross court backhand drills really with it, and I've done a few forehand cross courts, but no serves, no drills, and no drop shots yet. So it would be a little too early to just say now is the time to make the switch. Although if in a competitive situation my string does go on my main setup, at least I know I've got a backup that seems to be able to fill in as a substitute for the time being. I will at some point take it into a practice match situation, hopefully in conditions that are not too favourable for my playstyle, and really test it. If it performs well in those types of conditions, then there'll be a much stronger case for making the switch to that setup. But until then, I'm going to stick with the PowerBridge 10 as my main. I do like it. I am starting to play a little bit better with it. I'm starting to find my form with it, and so I don't really want to disrupt that momentum as I go into my next practice match and of course the tournament the next day. And I did have time to do one more drill, so I decided to go with a serving drill. And I've been thinking about this for a while because I haven't been happy with my serve since I've come back from injury, and I've decided I'm going to alter my serving position. So usually I'm about maybe a foot to a meter from the middle of the court when I serve. I've decided I'm gonna stand closer to the sideline, so roughly about 2.5 meters towards my left on the ad side, which is where this drill takes place. And the thinking behind this was that I would be able to increase my swing speed without worrying too much about the ball going long, because I've noticed when I'm getting tight, when I'm getting nervous in pressure situations, I'm pulling off for the serve. I'm not keeping that swing speed high just because I'm worried about it going long, and to be honest, rightfully slow, because when I do go for it, the ball is going long too often and there's too many errors that way. So I've decided to make a little alteration in that regard and take it out onto court, practice it, and then the goal is to take it into the practice match the following day. So let's have a look at it. Right, so yeah, I'm about looks like 2.5 meters from my usual position. This does feel very different for me. I don't even serve this wide when I'm playing doubles, let alone singles. But I really want to get my swing speed up on this serve because I feel like it's really letting me down too often. And I need that spin if I'm going to have any form of control on the second serve. And so that's why I'm doing this drill. The cones are in the corner. I'm trying to hit them. But in the beginning, I was going too central. I had to really adjust and almost aim to the right of the cones. Try and get a feel for the direction that I want to be aiming at. And it does get a little bit better as we go on in the drill. I tried a few down the tee as well, just to mix it up. But yeah, just really working on the swing speed and hopefully getting that slice and that swerve into my opponents, so it's impossible for them to attack, or at least a little bit more difficult for them to attack, and a little bit more consistent for me. And if I'm able to increase my swing speed, get that confidence back that I need on the serve, then maybe I can move a little bit further towards the middle again, where I usually serve from. But until then, my confidence isn't there. I'm going to make too many errors, and so I want to be able to hit out and hopefully not worry about the ball going long. Sometimes reality does not work out the way we think it would in our head, but we're going to give it a go in the match and see how it turns out. Fingers crossed it works. Alright, so the day before the tournament, I had a practice match with a player who I would class as very good. He regularly wins grade 4s and grade 5 tournaments. And our head-to-head record, although I don't have it written down, I believe it's somewhere around 15-3 in his favour. So he definitely has the upper hand on me. And I'm going to do a quick player profile on him so you get an idea of what I'm up against. He's about 5'8" tall. He's got a semi-western forehand grip, a two-handed backhand grip, and his play style is a consistent, solid baseliner, although he's very good up at net, and he very rarely misses smashes. And he's also got a very good backhand slice that's solid and pretty much always stays low over the net. It's very good neutralizing the shot. So that's what I'm up against. That's what I'm going to have to try and overcome. And the surface that we're playing on, I thought we were going to be practicing on AstroTurf because that is the surface that the tournament I've got coming up is on. But to my surprise, we are on a high bouncing, gritty hard court again. So this is becoming a theme almost in this series. But we're going to go for it anyway, see how it turns out. It can't be any worse than how I performed in our last tournament. So it's in a bubble, so it's like a dome. It's not technically indoors, but the bubble is over the courts. That means it's a little bit more humid. I guess it can get quite hot when the sun is beaming down on that dome, and thankfully it wasn't too hot in there. It was about, I would say, 9 to 10 degrees sunny, but only 9 to 10 degrees. So inside the bubble, it was about, I would say, roughly about 20 degrees Celsius. Right, into the first set, that ended 6-4 to my opponent. And I'll quickly run through it because I was a bit disappointed with this result. I was actually 4-2 up. We held serve until 2-all. Then I managed to create a little bit of a gap. And my tactic is to take the ball early, and I was actually doing pretty well even on those higher bouncing hard courts that I dislike, to be honest. But my timing was there, and he doesn't play with a ton of spin. There's a little bit more on the forehand than the backhand, but I was able to get on top of it and smother it before it really became a problem. And I was rushing him a little, especially with the newer balls. So I go 4-2 up. Unfortunately, I relinquish the lead with a few sloppy games. He goes 5-4 up eventually, and I'm serving to stay in the set. I go 30-love up, 2 good points. I serve well, and all set I've been serving well. Like I said in the last drill, I've been working on my swing speed, and I'm 30-love up. I do the same as I usually do, but this time I missed the first serve, and suddenly I double fault. So this is my first double fault of the match. We go 30-15, so I'm still up. I missed the first serve, and then I double fault again. Okay, so my swing speed is starting to decrease. I've noticed it. We're 30 all, but suddenly I'm like, oh, I've made 2 double faults. The confidence, the thoughts in my head are creeping in again, and I don't know why this happens, but again, another double fault, and this time I was actually just trying to get the ball in. I wasn't even trying to swing like I have been the whole set. The whole set I've been serving well, been getting 3 points. He hasn't been able to attack even one, and I've given him 3 points in a row, and I don't even want to say what happens next point, but I'm going to have to. I double fault again, so 4 in a row. 4 double faults in a row, yeah, that's right, to give up the set 6-4, a set that really I thought I should have won because I played so well up until that game, and I was the more aggressive player, the more proactive player. On every serve of his, I was trying to take the ball early. I was hitting through everything. I don't think I blocked even one serve back. Maybe there was probably a couple where he hit the corners and I had no choice but to just reach and block the ball back into play. But for every other serve, I was hitting through it, and successfully for the most part. Probably about 80% of serves, 80% of returns rather, I was hitting in and to a decent length and just neutralizing the serve straight away. His serve, I mean, he's 5'8", but his serve is pretty accurate, and it's always got a little bit of kick on it. So on that high bouncing court, there's a little bit of help, and even though he's only 5'8", it does tend to kick round about shoulder height or above if I don't manage to step in and take it on the rise. So yeah, that is the first set, and a little bit disappointed to report that 6-4 loss. But let's go into the second. Can't dwell on it, even though for the first couple games of the second set, I think I did let it dwell on my mind. But let's go into it. Into the second set, and this ended 6-3. Fortunately, I took it this time 6-3, and I wasn't expecting this really. When the conditions have slowed up in the past against this opponent, he's tended to dominate almost always, and there's been a lot of matches where I've actually taken the first set, then the balls lose pressure, the conditions slow up a little bit, and he's just so consistent and solid from the baseline that I haven't been able to break him down, and he's taken matches that way. But in this situation, that didn't happen. I was staying on the front foot. I didn't really change my strategy at all. In fact, looking back on it, the slower conditions, the ball's losing pressure, softening up and going slower through the air, not as quick through the air, I was actually able to control the high end trajectory enough to take advantage of the lower shot speed off of my setup. And because of that, I was still able to take the ball early. In fact, in some situations, I would say I was taking the ball earlier even more effectively than I was in the first set. And so despite not really getting any help off of the surface, because I was rushing him off of both wings, I'm trying not to slice really anything unless I'm in a defensive position. I was hitting through everything off of both wings, and he was defending and staying solid for the most part throughout the match, really. And I take the lead up until 5-2, and I can see actually for the first time that there's a bit of frustration on his part because he's used to staying super solid from the back of the court, and that's been enough against me. And that sort of tactic has frustrated me in the past. I think I've said when that happens, I tend to just get even more aggressive, and it plays right into this type of player's hands. But you know, through the drills and through the strategy, just continuing to practice it, I was able to execute it even more effectively than I usually have, and so I was able to take the next game to make it 6-3, and it was his turn really to get frustrated and make errors and hit out, where usually it's the opposite way. So there it is, it's 1-all, and we're actually got about 10 minutes remaining on court, so we can't unfortunately play a third set, which, you know, it could be a good thing. I mean, we got a tournament the next day, and so it was probably best to preserve the body, and we decided instead to do a 10-point tie break, which I did not get off to a good start. I was 4-1 down in a flash, and you know, too many errors, and especially over drop shots. I don't think I mentioned so far, I tried quite a few drop shots. The droppers across court, I hit them fine. I don't think I've missed one the whole match, but it's the drop shots down the line that I'm missing too often into the net, and one inexplicably went wide. I can't explain that one, but it's too many of them are going into the net, and I'm executing them from good positions, so they're the correct shot, just I'm not playing the shot correctly technique wise or whatever. I need to get back on the practice court and drill that the next opportunity I can. But yeah, so there was a few more drop shots that I missed, and eventually this tiebreak ended 10-4 to him, so he did manage to grind me down for the win in the championship tiebreak. But overall, I'm happy with the performance, especially in conditions that I've said before I don't like, but we're improving there, and hopefully we can take that improvement into the tournament, which is the next day. Right, so it's tournament day, and I'm going to get into the conditions firstly. It's about 9 to 10 degrees Celsius, but the sun is beaming down, so it feels a little bit warmer than that. The surface is AstroTurf, the surface that I actually practice on and is my favourite as of now. I find it the easiest to execute my plan A, which is to take the ball early and stay on the front foot. And onto the draw, there are actually 16 players in the main draw, and I have an unseeded opponent in the first round. So I'm going to do a quick player profile just so we got an idea of what we're coming up against. He's roughly 5'9" to 5'10" tall. He's got a semi-Western forehand, although it did look quite extreme in the warm-up. It could be on the verge of Western. He's got a two-handed backhand that looked a little flat in the warm-up, but also quite consistent. The volleys were a little inconsistent, and the serve not too quick, but I didn't see anything too erratic. So I didn't take too much from the warm-up, and I don't think you should anyway, because we could be getting duped, so you never know. But yeah, let's get on to what happened in the match. And the first set ended 4-love to myself. I was aggressive from the start, taking the ball early, whether I was serving or whether returning, and I was trying to stay inside the baseline as much as possible. The conditions were pretty quick, and I think it was more down to the actual balls we were using. They were these Dunlop ATPs that I haven't seen before, and it looked as if they had very little felt on them, and so they were traveling through the air quite quick, but also off of the surface quicker than you would with the usual like Dunlop Forts, for example, that tend to fluff up after a few games. These were the opposite. I mean, I think the fluff was just the felt was just falling off of the ball. I didn't see it fluff up at all, and so if anything, the balls were not losing any speed at all. But that was good because, you know, I was able to stay on the front foot. I didn't have any problems with length control, and you know, I could have targeted his forehand all day, really. It was a little bit more erratic, and from what I gathered, he's more used to the hard courts. I think that's what his playing surface usually is, and so I didn't have too much trouble just directing all the traffic down to that end and mixing it up when necessary. So we'll go into the second set, and this ended 4-1 to myself again. So he played a little bit better in the second set. I guess he was a little bit more used to the conditions. I know that feeling when you just get thrown into a tournament and you're surprised with the surface. So I know how he feels. But he played a little bit better in the second set, and maybe it was down to me. I tried to play into his backhand a few more times than really was necessary, and he cleaned a few double-handers cross court for winners. That was getting his confidence up, and he played a lot more solid than he did in the first set. But luckily I managed to maintain a level that was enough to see us take the win. And so a few positives there. I feel like despite the conditions being pretty quick, I was able to control the length well. I was able to control the direction quite well, and the sun beaming down on the court wasn't really causing the ball to bounce too high, although, you know, I've yet to play an opponent who uses a lot of spin and bounce as a weapon yet, so we could be in for a surprise there. But for the time being, the level's there, the strategy is being executed in a way that I'm pretty proud of. And in terms of negatives, I can't really think of any. Maybe I targeted his strength too much, but you know, I kind of felt like I needed to mix it up. I couldn't just do one thing the whole match, and also I wanted to practice different patterns of play so I would be ready for the quarterfinals if I needed to use them. So I did use one drop shot the entire match, which probably isn't enough really, but that was successful as well, and everything seemed solid, including the serve. I don't think I double faulted once. If I did, I can't remember, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, like I said, I'm telling myself, look, if you miss the second serve, you miss the second serve, but give yourself the best chance possible of making that serve effective, and that means maintaining the second serve speed, the swing speed. And so as long as I keep telling myself that and the confidence keeps growing from there, I think that's a positive. So yeah, we're through to the quarterfinals with not too many issues. I feel for my opponent. I've been there. I've been in situations where I've played on a surface that I don't particularly enjoy. I was surprised by it, but it happens in tennis, so good luck to him. He did well in the second set, adapted pretty well, but luckily I managed to come away with the win. So let's move on to the quarterfinals. And I've actually run out of time for this episode, so we will resume the tournament in the next episode of Project Versus, where I go into the quarterfinals against an opponent I've never played before. So we'll have a look, see how I get on there. But for now, I want to thank everyone for watching. I do appreciate it. If you have any suggestions at all, just drop them in the comments. I do read everything and I do take everything into account. I also want to remind everyone that I have a private subreddit where we analyze each other's setups and try to come up with ways to improve each other's setups and improve our learning also in the process. So if that sounds like something you'd like to be a part of, just drop your Reddit username in the comments, or if you don't want to drop it in the comments, just email it to me at qpenyatennis@hotmail.com and I will approve you from there. You won't be able to find the subreddit until I have approved you because I've set it to private. So again, I want to thank everyone for watching. Hopefully I'll see you all on the subreddit and everyone else on future videos. And until then, everyone, take care.